Oof. It started when I pressed the button for the 14th floor, but the building only had 9. That's not supposed to happen. Still, the elevator doors closed and it began to rise. Not fast, but with a sound like the building was breathing. I didn't feel fear, but I didn't feel safe either. What I saw wasn't in the floors. It was between them. First stop, between the 4th and 5th, the door opened. But there was no hallway, just darkness and footsteps. One person walking with 2 shadows behind her. Her face was covered in words. Pit. She walked out slowly and they rushed past me. They didn't seem to notice me at all. I couldn't make out what the words on her face said, but I strained to hear what she was saying. But all I could understand were fragments of a sentence. "Can't run," she whispered. "He'll find us." She walked on, but I heard more than her voice. Pie. I heard my own heartbeat, faster and faster. I should have pressed the button for the 5th floor, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the girl and her followers. Who was she? Why did she look like a living sentence? And why was she alone? Or was she? The elevator lurched upward, moving 3 floors at once. When the doors opened again, I was in a new place between the 7th and 8th. But it wasn't a hallway. It was a playground. A seesaw went back and forth. A slide twisted into a smile. And in the middle of it all sat a group of children. They were laughing and playing. But when I looked closer, their faces were white, featureless. I couldn't tell if they were boys or girls. B threw letters at each other. Each letter cried out when it was tossed. Some were happy letters, like exclamation points or asterisks. Others were angry, question marks and numbers. The kids shrieked with delight as the letters fell. But then the slide spoke. Its voice was like nails on chalkboards. "Why do you hurt us?" It screamed. "We don't mean to," one of the children said. "They force us to play." The slide shook with rage. "Then let us go," it demanded. "Let us go." The elevator kept going. It rose and fell, climbed and sank. I don't remember how long I rode or where I went. All I know is that every floor was worse than the last. Finally, it reached, but before it got to the 11th, everything changed. The lights flickered and died. The buttons vanished. And for a moment, the only sound was the hum of electricity being drained from the wires. Then, the elevator lurched upward, shooting through the roof. The wind tore at me. Rain lashed against my face. Air! And as the doors slid open, I was bathed in sunlight. I stumbled out onto a street I knew. It looked normal. Cars passed by, people walked on the sidewalk. Nothing stood out until I noticed a black dog trotting down the road. It had 4 legs and 2 tails. I looked back at the building, but the elevator shaft was empty. There was nothing left but metal bones and shattered glass. I walked down the street, shaken but unharmed. Relief flooded through me. Bit was over. Bye. When I turned to go home, I found myself staring at the side of a building, the side that had never been there before. The brickwork was old and cracked. Ivy grew up the side, and in the center was an elevator shaft. Its doors were open, beckoning me inside. A new button glowed on the panel. Number 14. Should I have stayed away? I hesitated, torn between the world I knew and this new one. Then I remembered the girl and her followers. Had they sent me here? Were they watching? I didn't know how to get back, so I stepped into the elevator and pressed the 14th floor. The doors slid shut behind me, and as they started closing, I saw a man standing outside the shaft. Peace. His eyes were wide with panic. Beer. He mouthed the words, "Don't do it." But I didn't listen. I ignored his desperate plea. Instead, I watched as he disappeared from sight, as the elevator began to rise. When it reached the 14th floor, the button was down. But the elevator stopped. It didn't open. I felt someone behind me. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just watched. Everything inside me screamed, "Don't turn around." But curiosity was the real curse. I turned. No one. Yet I could feel his eyes boring into me, heavy with meaning. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. My mouth opened to scream, but no sound came out. And then the doors opened. I was no longer in an elevator shaft. Instead, I stood before a mirror. The walls were smooth, featureless, and when I looked inside, I saw another me walking out of the elevator. He looked different. Earlier, I couldn't tell which. I felt a sudden urge to follow him, to catch up, to see where he went. But then the elevator doors slid shut and the reflection vanished. Moments later, they opened again, and there I was, back in the elevator. The doors opened, and I stepped out onto the floor I'd started on. It hadn't changed. The pattern on the carpet was still there. The painting hung crooked on the wall, but everything felt different. The air was colder, heavier. The light was dimmer, tinged with something like regret. I don't remember how long I stood there. Maybe seconds, maybe hours. I tried to call out, but my voice caught in my throat. I tried to move, but my limbs felt like dead weights. Prayer. As if this floor, this world, was pulling me down, trying to keep me here. I was trapped, stuck between floors, stuck between worlds. That's when I noticed a change in the wallpaper. A crack had appeared, a jagged line running up the wall, and from it, words began to emerge. At first, it was hard to decipher them. They twisted and turned, refusing to form sentences. But as I watched, the words rearranged themselves, shuffling and reforming until they settled into a single phrase. Sometimes the 14th floor isn't above you, it's beneath you. Press stare at the message, trying to understand its meaning. Above me, below me, what did it mean? Then I realized it wasn't just the words that had shifted. The entire room had tilted. The floor beneath my feet was no longer horizontal. It was becoming a trap. The ceiling pressed down on me. The walls closed in. I tried to scream, but the sound died in my throat. Terror choked me. I ran for the door, fumbling with the handle, but the room kept tilting, kept twisting, until the door was no longer in front of me. It was above me. When I finally broke free, I collapsed on the floor outside the room, gasping for breath. I pushed myself upright, my heart pounding in my chest. As I scanned the familiar hallway, a sense of foreboding washed over me. I realized I didn't want to go back. Not yet. I needed answers. But as I turned to leave, the hallway shifted, and the room I'd just escaped reappeared in front of me, unchanged. The wallpaper was still intact, the painting still crooked, the carpet still patterned. It was as if nothing had happened, but I knew better. I could feel the danger beneath me, lurking in the floor I'd just left. As I continued down the hall, I noticed small changes, subtle shifts that hinted at the unseen forces. Shadows seemed deeper, colors more muted. And then I saw the dog again, trotting peacefully down the corridor. It stopped and looked at me, its two tails wagging slowly. I forced myself to look away. Right now, my only priority was finding help, discovering who or what was behind this. I had to find someone who understood, someone who could guide me through this maze of shifting realities. But who and where? My gaze fell on the elevator. Should I have avoided it? Was it somehow responsible for all this? Curiosity warred with common sense. I knew getting inside might lead to more confusion, more chaos. But the alternative, staying in this uncertain reality, didn't appeal to me either. Would I find peace in the chaos, or understanding in the shifting floors? Either way, I knew the decision would change me. So I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and walked towards the elevator. Button for the 14th floor glowed faintly, and as I pressed it, I knew I was about to step into the unknown again. I hoped I wouldn't be met with words or footsteps, with laughter or letters. I hoped whatever awaited me wouldn't vanish when I turned around. But most of all, I hoped I wouldn't become part of the 14th floor. Because if I did, who would escape for me?